Prince Harry just got some news about Frogmore Cottage, and honestly, the whole situation is messier than people are giving it credit for. So, Harry and Meghan paid back millions in refurbishments to that place. Millions. And now, less than 2 years later, everything they put into it has been ripped out, stripped, gone. And here's the thing that gets me. We only know this because the royals made sure we knew. This didn't have to be public. This is a private estate. They could have quietly renovated the whole thing and nobody would have batted an eye. But no, it was put out there deliberately. And if you ask me, that move has William's fingerprints all over it. Because from everything we're hearing, William is the one who absolutely does not want Harry anywhere near Windsor. Not Harry, not Meghan, not even close to that estate. This was a message, a very loud, very deliberate message. And Meghan apparently did not take it well. Now, to really understand why this Frogmore thing cut so deep, you have to go back to the Spare era. Because Harry, when he was doing his press rounds for that book, sat down and told interviewers he could have written hundreds and hundreds more pages. He said he barely scratched the surface. And one of the things he had tucked away, one of the stories he knew about but didn't fully unload, was this whole rental situation inside the royal family. Because while Harry was being evicted from Frogmore, let's talk about what else was going on. The Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh sitting in a massive mansion, paying essentially nothing in rent. Andrew at Royal Lodge, barely contributing a penny, with Fergie living there for free. Beatrice and Eugenie with gorgeous apartments at St. James's Palace and Kensington Palace, not working royals, contributing nothing officially, but perfectly comfortable. And Harry knew all of this. He saw all of this. And when Frogmore was taken from him, it hit differently because of exactly that context. He and Meghan were apparently willing to pay rent. They wanted to convert it, fund it themselves, make it work. And they still got pushed out. Now, the title Spare itself, I find it fascinating even before we get into the content. Penguin Random House genuinely did not want that title. Their whole argument was algorithmic. Where does Spare show up in a search? Nobody's typing that in. They pushed for Harry or Prince Harry, something searchable, something obvious, but Harry wouldn't budge. And honestly, that tracks. Because that whole era of Harry, the press tour, the interviews, the Netflix documentary, all of it had this energy of him insisting on his version of things, even when the people around him were quietly suggesting a different approach. Penguin Random House got a taste of that firsthand, and the legal team over there had an even rougher time of it, from what we understand. Because Harry's stories, as compelling as some of them are, often came without receipts. No emails, no letters, no documentation, just his word. And in publishing, especially when you're writing about the royal family, that creates a real legal headache. The ghostwriter they brought in, a very expensive one, couldn't bridge that gap entirely. You can write something beautifully, but if there's nothing backing it up, the legal team is going to sweat through every single page. And that's kind of the core tension with everything Harry does, right? The stories are interesting. Some of them are genuinely eyebrow raising. But there's always this question hanging over it. How much of this can actually be verified? Harry himself admitted he could have said more, which means there's a whole second book, maybe a third, sitting somewhere in his head. And the royals know that. William knows that. Which honestly might explain why the response to Harry has been so calculated and so cold. Because if you poke him too hard, he talks. And if he talks, who knows what else comes out. But here's what I keep coming back to with the Frogmore situation specifically. Harry apparently believed he and Meghan had a real shot at making that place their UK base. They were prepared to invest in it, pay for it, treat it like a long-term home, and instead it got taken away, refurbished with their money, and then gutted again within 2 years. That's a lot to sit with. And Meghan, from what people close to the situation are saying, is furious. Because her argument, and honestly it's not a bad one, is that no one has brought more actual embarrassment to the monarchy than Andrew. Nobody. Andrew's situation is objectively far more damaging to the crown than anything Harry and Meghan have done. And yet Andrew sat comfortably at Royal Lodge for years, Fergie right there with him, both of them essentially being carried by an institution they weren't actively working for. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan, who at least tried to work, tried to do the tours, tried to show up, get pushed out completely. Now, I'm not saying Harry and Meghan handled everything perfectly because they didn't. The interviews, the Netflix series, the book, some of that was messy and some of it genuinely did damage. But the double standard that Meghan keeps pointing to, it's hard to fully dismiss when you lay it out side by side like that. Andrew cost the royal family enormously in terms of reputation. Real, lasting international reputation damage. And the treatment he received versus the treatment Harry received is just not comparable. What's interesting, though, is where William fits into all of this, because William is increasingly the one making these calls. Charles is on the throne, but William is becoming the real force, shaping how the family positions itself publicly. And William's position on Harry seems to be pretty firm at this point. The relationship there is not warm. It is not heading toward reconciliation anytime soon. And William shutting down any possibility of Harry having a foothold at Windsor, whether that's Frogmore or anything else, feels very intentional, like he's drawing a line and making sure everyone can see exactly where it is. Harry sitting in Montecito knows this, Meghan knows this, and the staff around them apparently hear about it regularly. Because this isn't just about a cottage. It never really was. It's about whether Harry has any place left in the structure he grew up in. And right now, the answer coming back from the palace is a pretty clear no. The door isn't just closed. Based on everything we're seeing, it's been locked. And the Frogmore renovation being made so publicly visible was basically them sliding a note under that locked door just to make sure Harry got the message. So now you've got Harry with a book full of stories he says he held back, a wife who is increasingly vocal about the unfairness she sees, and a family back home that is quietly, methodically making sure there is nothing left for them to come back to. And then there's the Beatrice and Eugenie situation, which honestly doesn't get talked about enough in this whole conversation, because these two are living in prime royal real estate. We're talking St. James's Palace and Kensington Palace, gorgeous central London apartments, and they are not working royals. They have their own careers, their own lives, their own husbands, and nobody is making a big public show of ripping their accommodations apart. Nobody is leaking to the press about their arrangements. They're just quietly comfortable. And Harry knew about this. Harry watched all of this from close up. So when Frogmore got taken, and when the refurbishments got stripped, and when it all got played out publicly, you can understand why it felt personal. Because it was personal, now the rental situation across the whole family is genuinely wild when you lay it all out. Edinburgh, Andrew, Beatrice, Eugenie. The pattern is that if you stay quiet, stay in line, and don't cause waves, you keep your home and your arrangement and nobody says a word. The moment you step out, the moment you go to Netflix or write a book or sit down with Oprah, suddenly the financial arrangements become everyone's business. Suddenly the press knows exactly what renovations are being undone. It's a very clear system. And Harry walked right into it, eyes open or not. What strikes me, though, is that Harry genuinely seems surprised by how hard the response was. And I find that fascinating. Because he's a smart person. He grew up inside this machine. He watched how it worked his entire life. He saw what happened to people who stepped out of line. And yet somehow he still seemed caught off guard by the efficiency of it. Meghan, maybe less so, but Harry, you can hear it in the interviews. There's still this disbelief that his own family would go this far. The book situation ties back into all of this too, because Spare was supposed to be Harry's definitive account, his truth. But the legal struggles that Penguin Random House went through trying to back it up, the absence of documentation, the reliance on memory and feeling rather than hard evidence, all of that left the book in a strange place. Compelling in parts, impossible to fully verify in others. And Harry saying he could have written hundreds more pages doesn't help his case with the palace, because it essentially tells them the threat is still alive. There's more material. He's just choosing when to use it. William understands leverage, and I think Harry is learning, maybe too late, that his leverage only works if people believe he'll actually use it. Every interview, every documentary, every book where he holds something back slightly, where he says there's more but doesn't deliver it, chips away at that credibility, At some point, the palace stops worrying about what he might say because they've seen the pattern. So, where does this all land? Harry is in Montecito, no foothold in the UK, no Frogmore, no working royal status, a book that raised more questions than it answered, and a wife who is rightfully pointing out that the scoreboard here is not even close to fair. Meghan is not wrong that Andrew's damage to the crown dwarfs anything she and Harry did. But being right doesn't always mean you win. And in the royal game, being right while being outside the walls is a pretty lonely position to be in. William is consolidating, the family is circling. And Harry, for all his stories and all his receipts he doesn't quite have, is watching from very far away.